Well, hello. Let me see if I can get a picture up here. Just a second. This is George Walker, and we're so glad that you're with us today. For some reason, my camera is not working. I tell you, it seems like week to week we start off with a problem. But hey, this is it. This is it. Glad to be with you. Yes, let me get my camera turned toward me. Okay. Now, we can get that adjusted a little bit more. All right, all right. Welcome to the BFTAA and More show. Yes, this is George Walker, and I am glad to be with you as I still work to adjust this picture just right. Okay, yeah. Well, we're here today. It's been a good start of the week. Had some things going on. I've been out and about. It's hot outside, but I'm glad to be with you. This is the BFTAA and More show. As you see, I'm trying to adjust some things, which is a good thing. We like to be able to make the adjustments as needed. There, like that. Not quite, not quite. Right there. Okay, yeah, as I'm in my office broadcasting from this remote location, I'd like to welcome you to the BFTAA and More show. I am your host, Louis George Walker. I'm the president of the Black Family Technology Awareness Association. You're actually watching us right now on Knowledge, Understanding, and Wisdom, KUAW Radio. Yes, we're right here coming to you live and in living color, and we're glad to be here. The Black Family Technology Awareness Association, in cooperation and partnership with the W.E.B. Du Bois Learning Center, formed the radio station KUAW, Knowledge, Understanding, and Wisdom. We continue to try and work to make this, to close the digital divide that exists in the African American community, and to bring you some news and information about what's going on in the community. There's a lot of things that have been happening in the news, a lot that you've probably been watching, I've been watching, but we want to talk about some of the things sometimes that don't pop up in the news. We're all about trying to get families involved in technology, trying to get our kids to look at STEM pathways in education, and to value STEM in our lives, in our daily lives, because science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, that's STEM. Those fields have a high impact on what we do, how we live day to day. So we like to see if there's something we can do to enlighten ourselves, enlighten the community on things that are happening. The Black Family Technology Awareness Association has been around for 16, going on 17 years in Kansas City. And we host the Black Family Technology Awareness Week. We also have a couple of robot teams that we sponsor, the VEX robotics team that we use for our middle and high school students, and the Lego robotics that we have our elementary students in. Those are all programs that we work with the kids on the weekends right here in Kansas City at the W.E.B. Du Bois Learning Center. And we also put on a technology fair every year in February out at the Southeast Community Center, or it's been out there for probably the last 10 years, 10 or 12 years. And we try to bring that so that people can see some of the things that are going on in the community. We partner with other organizations and we work to do things that will, like I say, bring that enlightenment. So we're glad that you're here today. And as we talk about it, school's out. A lot of graduates have gotten out of school, and now they're getting ready for their summer vacation and making plans for the next level in their lives. Some are getting ready to head off to college, some to high school, some to middle school, some to school for the first time. Yes, so as all of that is going on, we want to salute all of our young people that are still getting their education, those that are going back to get education, and even adults that are going in for education, because a lot of us, I know myself, I went back to school after I had been on my job for, say, 25 years, and finally got my bachelor's degree. So sometimes you may be getting into education later in life, And that's okay too, because education is always good. It's always good to have, and you're never too old to learn something new. So as we get ready to go into our show today, I don't have a whole lot to talk to you about, but we always bring to you what's going on at NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, so that we can encourage kids, families to look at space or look at engineering, science, technology, things that are happening. And the government is one place where a lot of the science is happening. They're even passing bills now that they want to make sure we keep up or get in front of or stay in front of the other countries that are becoming more and more technologically advanced. So this is a thing that we have to look at here in the United States. The world is gaining more and more technology, and we here at the United States should be wanting to maintain our lead in technology. We should be leading the pack and not just followers. So we want to, the government, I'll talk to you a little bit about some initiatives that they've got going now to help stay ahead of Russia, China, some of the other countries, Japan, that are rapidly developing their capabilities in technology. So let's get ready right now and see. I don't know if I had queued up the what's going on this week at NASA. I'll see if I can bring that up for you right quick. Where's NASA at here? I always have that in. I don't see my NASA ad in here, or my link. So I have some links. I use a program called OBS, which is pretty neat for doing what we're doing in that regard. And I will bring that up. I will load it up now while I'm talking to you so that we can see what's going on at NASA today. And this is it right here.
Making progress on our Artemis moon rocket, images from a close encounter with the Jovian moon, and a ring of fire for our moon. A few of the stories to tell you about this week at NASA. Stacking and assembly activities for the agency's uncrewed Artemis 1 mission continue at our Kennedy Space Center. These activities involve lifting the Space Launch System rocket's 188,000-pound core stage onto the mobile launcher in between the two solid rocket boosters. That will be followed by the stacking and integration of other elements and eventually the addition of the Orion spacecraft. The twin solid rocket boosters and the core stage will provide more than 8.8 million pounds of thrust during the launch of NASA's next-generation Artemis moon missions. Our Juno mission sent back images after its June 7 flyby of Jupiter's moon Ganymede, showing remarkable surface detail, including craters, distinct areas of dark and bright terrain, and features possibly linked to tectonic faults. The flyby is expected to yield insights into the moon's composition and makeup, including measurements of its radiation environment that could benefit future missions to the Jovian system. Learn more about the mission at nasa.gov/Juno. On June 10th, people across the Northern Hemisphere had a chance to experience an annular or a partial eclipse of the sun. Canada, Greenland, and Northern Russia experienced an annular eclipse during which the alignment of the moon, sun, and Earth are such that there appears to be a ring of fire around the moon. Elsewhere, including in parts of the eastern U.S. and northern Alaska, the moon only blocked a smaller portion of the sun. Find out more about eclipses at nasa.gov/eclipse. A SpaceX Dragon cargo spacecraft arrived at the International Space Station on June 5th, 2 days after launching from our Kennedy Space Center. The Dragon delivered more than 7,300 pounds of cargo, including the new ISS rollout solar arrays for the station, a science experiment with squids that could help with protective measures to keep astronauts healthy on long-duration space missions, a study on microscopic organisms called water bears that might help humans deal with the stress factors of human spaceflight, and more. This is SpaceX's 22nd contracted commercial resupply mission to the station for NASA. On June 9th, NASA announced that 2 teams of scientists from the Wake Forest Institute for Regenerative Medicine in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, are the first and second place winners of the Vascular Tissue Challenge, a prize competition to grow and sustain functioning human tissue in a lab. on Earth and in space, improved lab-grown vascularized tissue could be used for better disease modeling and could accelerate related research for organ transplants, as well as development of new therapeutics for long-term deep space missions. The NASA TechRise Student Challenge is a new STEM education-based competition that will kick off for the 2021-22 school year for teams of 6th through 12th graders. The contest aims to inspire a deeper understanding of Earth's atmosphere, space exploration, coding, and electronics, as well as a broader understanding of the value of test data. For more details, check out nasa.gov/STEM. That's what's up this week at NASA. For more on these and other stories, follow us on the web at nasa.gov/TWAN.
All right. That's very... Yes. So we're kind of glad to hear about that. You may have had a little bit of echo in there, I think, because I've got my microphone on, but I'll turn that off before we do the next one. Let me get my video back on here. All right. Yeah, trying to get my setup. I've been messing with a lot of the keys and things and going. Hey, they showed some new things that they have going, and if your students or if your children are looking for things to do, or you're looking for things in science to do with your child, or for your child to be able to do themselves, you may go to the NASA website, nasa.gov. That's NASA.gov. You might want to go there because they have a lot of information. That new program that they said starting in August, I'm going to do some research on that because we may offer it to our kids as we get ready to reopen our program from the pandemic in August. So we're looking for, and I want to put this out here first, we had a meeting this weekend, and we're going to be looking for volunteers to help the Black Family Technology Awareness Association with our program. So we need volunteers from the community, from industry, from educational organizations that would like to help out with our STEM programs that we have. And you don't have to work in STEM. We need people that can be event planners, that know how to do communications with people, not just working with our students, but working with our organization in general. So the Black Family Technology Awareness Association would love to have you volunteer. We need people that are digital savvy. We have some edits that we would like to be done and clips that you can even do from home. You don't have to come in. A lot of the work that we would like to have done doesn't have to be done in person, but we can send it out to you and you can do it there. But those are the type of things that we want to get going so that we come into 2021, going into 2022 strong. We had a year of not being able to do much last year, although on the radio side we did keep this going, and it's been a labor of love there. But we need to do things with our youth, with our programming that we haven't been doing, that we want to do new and exciting. We want to make changes. So I've been working. I had a webinar that I was on this morning about grants and a boot camp that the Small Business Administration, or SCORE, put on today, and it was very interesting. So we're trying to get more knowledge in, but we could use your help. We need more people like you to help the Black Family Technology Awareness Association. So if you've been thinking about doing it, now's the time to contact us. You can give me a call directly at 816-805-0406 if you would like to be involved with the Black Family Technology Awareness Association. You can also email us at bftaa@sbcglobal.net, or you can contact us right here at KUAW Radio. This is a part of the Black Family Technology Awareness Association. So, excuse me. So these are all things that we need, and we need you to help. There's a phone number going across there, 816-599-6893. Contact us and say that you'd like to help out, and we'd like to talk with you, meet with you about helping the Black Family Technology Awareness Association and what we're doing to eliminate the digital divide, to bring more equity in the African American community, to families, to businesses, to students, to everyone, so that we can have a better standard of living in our community. So we want to bring hope. We want to bring new ideas, and you can be a part of that. Let me move this clock out the way. The magic of OBS, now it's gone. So if you'd like to help us out, please contact us. Send us an email, BFTAA@sbcglobal.net or KUAW985@gmail.com. Either one of those would be good. Or go to our Facebook page. If you're watching this, you may be on YouTube or Facebook. Put in a comment on Facebook that you would like to help out, that you would like to volunteer with the Black Family Technology Awareness Association. We're on Facebook at KUAW- or at Black Family Technology Awareness Association BFTAA, or at KUAW-radio. So let us know if you could help out, if you want to be a part of the Black Family Technology Awareness Association and help combat the digital divide that exists in our community. We're going to be putting up more information about how you can come and work with us, how you can work from a remote location to help out with what we're doing. So get in touch. We'd like to work with you, like to hear from you and connect with you. We'd like to meet you so that we can bring more people into this circle that is all about enhancing our technological expertise in the community. So as we continue down that line, we have another bit this week from NASA, and this is Space to Ground. So we'd like to give you that information and let you watch this right now so you still can get involved in what's going on in science, technology, engineering, and math. So let's see this week's entry from NASA of Space to Ground.
Houston Station on Space to Ground.
Welcome to Space to Ground. I'm Sandra Jones. This week, a cargo dragon arrived to the space station, bringing with it a plethora of new science, and preps are underway for upcoming spacewalks. On Saturday, June 5th, the 22nd contracted SpaceX Dragon cargo spacecraft docked to the International Space Station. NASA astronauts Shane Kimbrough and Megan MacArthur monitored docking operations of the spacecraft. CRS-22 launched on Thursday, June 3rd from Launch Complex 39A at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida, carrying with it science experiments, cargo, and supplies. Following the arrival of the spacecraft, the crew has been busy unloading the cargo dragon and diving into the science on board. Among the many experiments on board, one payload is the understanding of microgravity on animal-microbe interactions, or umami. This experiment examines the effects of spaceflight on the molecular and chemical interactions between beneficial microbes and their animal hosts. Millions of people worldwide suffer from chronic kidney disease. The arrival of the Kidney Cells 2 investigation will use a three-dimensional kidney cell model to study the effects of microgravity on the formation of microcrystals in kidney tubules. Results could lead to better treatments for conditions such as kidney stones. Flight engineer Shane Kimbrough configured the lyophilization 2 in microgravity investigation, which will examine gravity's effect on freeze-dried materials. This examination could result in improved freeze-drying processes for pharmaceutical or other industries. A new series of NanoRacks CubeSats were installed to the slide table deployer of the KUAW module. One of the CubeSats, RamSat, is an educational mission and will use multispectral and near-infrared cameras to study the effects of large-scale disturbances such as forest fires. To learn more about these new investigations and more, head to nasa.gov/ISS-science. Also on board Dragon were the new ISS Rollout Solar Arrays, or IROSAs, which will be installed during a pair of spacewalks later this month. On Wednesday, June 16th, NASA astronaut Shane Kimbrough and European Space Agency astronaut Thomas Pesquet will venture outside the space station's hatch to install the first IROSA solar array on the P6 truss for the 2B channel power system. We'll be covering the entire spacewalk live, and you can tune in beginning at 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time. But before the spacewalking duo heads out into the vacuum of space, you can learn more about this upcoming spacewalking series during the EVA preview briefing this Monday, June 14th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And that's Space to Ground for this week. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week.
All right. That's Space to Ground. So if you like these bits that we bring to you from NASA, let me know. I'd like to hear from you. Come in on our Facebook page and let me know if you like that. If you don't like it, I'd love to hear from you and see what your opinions are. I think it's interesting myself, and I think it's interesting for all of us to learn a little bit about what's going on at NASA, but I'd like to know what you think about it. So those are some of the things that have been happening. Now, as we talk about education coming out of the pandemic and all of that, I've got some other information I'd like to bring to you, some articles that I think are worth noting. Let's see, and these come from STEM Education Coalition. The STEM Education Coalition, they keep us gives us a lot of information about what's going on in science, technology, engineering, and math, and as it relates to education. So some of the things that the government or that corporations or individuals are doing in the community to help out with STEM education. So one bit that came out, or an article, says the Senate passes $250 billion bipartisan tech and manufacturing bill. So they're putting $250 billion, $250 billion, aimed at countering China. So now that's you've been hearing about a lot of things that they're trying to do in Washington, and they want to extend this, or they want to do this for COVID and stuff. And it kind of got by you that, hey, they did pass something, and that was this bill to help increase tech and manufacturing aimed at countering China. It says the Senate on Tuesday passed one of the largest industrial bills in U.S. history in a bipartisan effort to ensure that the U.S. remains competitive with China as one of the globe's technological powerhouses. The bill, which passed the chamber with a vote of 68 to 32, commits roughly $250 billion in funding for scientific research subsidies for chip makers, robot makers, and an overhaul of the National Science Foundation. The scope of the bill, the final product of at least 6 Senate committees and almost all members of the chamber, reflects the many fronts in the U.S.-China rivalry. It also likely represents one of the last major bipartisan initiatives that may happen this year, in 2021. So we're at June, and they're saying, hey, this might be the last time that we do something bipartisan for the rest of the year. Proof that U.S. lawmakers are broadly in favor of legislation that works to counter Beijing's economic and military expansion. Failure to expand the nation's semiconductor production or reroute rare earth supply chains, advocates say, could leave the U.S. at a strategic disadvantage in the years ahead. So there's a couple of fronts that they're working on there, and if you look into this article, this was on CNBC June the 8th, so this was back last week. But the bill, as they say, $250 billion in funding for scientific research, subsidies for chip makers and robot makers. So we talk about giving out money, and sometimes they don't want to give out money, or they do. Well, they want to do some subsidies for chip makers and robot makers, and what that means is they're going to help them make by keeping their prices low by giving them subsidies. A subsidy is where you pay people some extra money so that they can continue to do the work that you want them to do here in the United States. So to make them be a cost advantage or to be cost competitive, then the United States may have to pay them out of our tax dollars to do that. So that's already passed, and it was 68 to 32. One reason that they did it, I would think, is that you look at now, they're saying that car manufacturing, a lot of things we're using are suffering from a chip shortage. And the chip shortage starts outside of the United States, because most of the chips that are manufactured are not manufactured in the United States. They're not all made in China, but a large percentage of them are. But they're not being made in the United States to where they used to be. Now, China didn't just take this over by coming in and robbing us. A lot of it was we moved our manufacturing a lot to China. Companies are going to China to get it because China can make them cheaper. So the United States led in making chips. I mean, Intel and AMD and Citrix and many other companies were building chips right here in the United States, in Texas, in California, and all that. But to be cost effective, they have to go where there's low wages. And with low wages, China is able to make up a lot more products at a cheaper cost. So that put a disadvantage to the U.S. chip makers. So now the chips were coming from overseas, which isn't a problem as long as they're coming. But as you see, they have a problem over in China, some of it caused by the pandemic. Plants had to shut down over there also. The supply chain is getting tight. Well, we don't get the chips. The car makers don't get the chips. That's affecting our economy. So now we're wanting to subsidize some of the makers of semiconductors here in the United States so that they can keep producing right here in the United States. They're saying that they can't make any money making it here in the United States. So if we, as taxpayers, give them some of the money, then that would be okay. So that is a form of corporate welfare, but I don't think anybody disagrees with it because they want the semiconductor industry to be strong. But as we look at cost in the United States, as we look at what is welfare, what is not, or where is our money going, there's $250 billion, not just going for that, but to chip makers, to robot makers, and to overhaul the National Science Foundation. So we have to put money into research and development. And that is something that we should always have been doing. We started dropping back as we started centering more of our thought on the profit and getting the people, the stock market and the stockholders a return quicker. And research and development takes a long time. It takes a long time to develop, even like they say, some new drugs. There was a new drug that came out last week for Alzheimer's and for other things that they said they've been working on for 20 years. So they've been working on it for 20 years, and it's going to cost $50,000 a year to use this drug. If you're sick, if you want to use it and stuff, it's going to be $50,000. Well, you got to pay for that long time of research and development. We in the United States kind of stopped doing a lot of the research and development. AT&T, Bell Labs used to be a leader in that. But it takes a long time to get products to market when you're doing research and development. And we started wanting to do things real fast. So a lot of our research and development budgets got slashed. A lot of other countries sped up or increased their research and development because they said we can make money if we can develop the stuff that they need here in the United States because it's a big market. Just like a lot of our companies went to China so that they could get stuff made cheap to make a lot of money over here in this country. China, India, a lot of those countries are looking at ways they can hit American markets because they want to make a lot of money out of here. So those are some of the things that are affecting us, and that's one reason why the Senate has now passed a $250 billion bipartisan tech and manufacturing bill to aim at countering China. So, you know, that's your tax dollars at work. Not against it. I'd say a lot of times our corporations should be looking at doing more on research and development than they have been doing. We need to be going into that more, especially on the manufacturing side. I think with the intellectual properties, we're still doing a lot of research and development there. A lot of times that doesn't cost as much and has a quicker turnaround of money, but making the chips better, and then actually finding ways to produce them in this country at a lower cost, more efficiently, would be good. So those are things that are going on with the government. Also, I saw an article in the STEM education news. The Department of Education announces actions to advance equity in education. This came out the next day on June 9th. Says today, building on the American Rescue Plan's historic funding for schools as drivers of equity and opportunity, the Department of Education announced a series of actions it is taking to advance equity in education and ensure schools across the nation are serving all students. Actions include the release of a report highlighting the disparate impacts of COVID-19 on K-12 and post-secondary students in underserved communities. The release of a guidance to implement an historic provision within the American Rescue Plan that will ensure that the school districts with the highest poverty do not receive any per pupil decrease in state funding below their pre-pandemic levels. In an Equity Summit series, the department will be holding over the coming months. The actions aim to not only address the inequities that were exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic, but to encourage schools more broadly to reimagine their education systems and practices and infuse equity in all of their work. So that's the thing that we're looking at too. We've got to change our educational system. One thing COVID-19 brought to the forefront, even though it's been known or kind of under the scenes, was the lack of technology in especially underserved areas, the lack of use of it. There's been a lot of people, a lot of us, like at the Black Family Technology Awareness Association, the W.E.B. Du Bois Learning Center, Connecting for Good, a lot of groups that have been trying to look at ways to get broadband access into the community. There's been some wireless initiatives that were started. I know we put an antenna over at Bishop Tolbert's church to serve that area, and we worked with some people. There was a grant that allowed us to put some receivers in different houses so they could get internet wirelessly that would save the cost of putting up cable and running lines, to see if that would be a cost-effective measure for internet in underserved areas. I don't know if that project is still going or what the whole results were, but I know I did work with them for a few weeks on that, and we helped to train some of the installers, some of the people that were going to be installing the units in the houses that were part of this test. So those type of tests have to continue because there is a gap in internet access in the urban core and in the rural areas too. There's a lot of that. One is it's hard to reach the rural areas, what do I want to say, cost effectively. Because if you have to run cable, if you have to run fiber down 30 miles somewhere to an area that only has 30 or 40 customers, it becomes not cost effective because of the cost of reaching them. In a city, you can run a mile of cable and it goes in front of, 400 houses. In the country, well, not quite 400, but it goes to a bunch. But in the country, you might run 10 miles of cable just to reach 5, 6, 7 people. Well, it costs money to lay cable. It costs money to maintain cable and to have the equipment to send the signals to and from and to maintain it. So those are things that the rural areas experiencing. In the urban core, a lot of it is a big financial benefit that can't be made. There's not a lot of cable or equipment being ran because there's not a lot of takers. If you run by 100 houses in Leawood, for say, or even up north up here, not to pick on any one area, but in a more affluent area where the demographic says the average income is maybe $50,000 or better a year, then you may get, for your mile, you're going to get more customers to sign up to pay $30, $40, $50, $60, $70 a month for a service than if you go into an area where the average income is, say, $30,000 and you run a mile. You won't get as many takers. So for companies, they say they need to run the cable where they're going to get the more bang for their buck. It's a dollar and cents thing. So we need some subsidies in the cities, in the rural area, to make it worthwhile for the companies in order to provide those services all around, the access. Then we have to have the people technologically or literate in technology to use it, to connect to it, to know the value of having that internet access, of using that for the kids to be able to study at home. Those are the type of things that have been being worked on for years. When I was with AT&T, there were projects on it. There are still projects on it, but we still find that there is a gap as what they used to call the digital divide. The digital divide still exists. When we had the COVID-19 hit, we found out that, lo and behold, a lot of inner city schools, underserved school areas and stuff, they weren't equipped to do remote learning as well. And not just with equipment, but a lot of the teachers in those schools and in a lot of schools weren't equipped to start doing remote teaching. It wasn't something that had been done. Money had been spent on other things. Not that it was wasted, but there were other priorities. But those are things that we have to look at. Now, distant learning is going to be something that's going to be around with us for a long time now. Having a computer at home in 2004, when we first started this organization, our goal was to have people have broadband access at home and a computer to use it and to learn how to use that computer to improve their standard of living. That was in 2004. As relevant as it was then, it is 10 times more relevant to have broadband access at your house now for your students, for your family, for everything we do. So we need to work on that. The Department of Education is making some strides, so hopefully we can help close that. That's just, things that are going on here. So those were a couple of items that came up this week. The education and Department of Education and what they're wanting to do to advance equity in education, so that there's an even playing field. That's what we've got to do. And also that the Senate passed a $250 billion bipartisan bill. They spent that money there to get subsidies for chip makers, for robot makers, and an overhaul of the National Science Foundation for more scientific research. That's what we need to be doing. So that's a little bit from the STEM Education Coalition. Also, we need to talk about the job thing. They're closing off or they're stopping the $300 supplemental unemployment money so that people will get back to work. There's a lot saying that, people aren't working because they can make more money staying at home at $300. And that's maybe not saying something bad about the $300, but saying what it takes to live off of, because I don't think people are getting rich off of $300 more a week. So are they saying that a poor person would just as soon be poor and get money there as to try and move up by working where he can make more money? Because if you're going to make the same amount, no, it's a disincentive. But if you say you can make more now, it's not a lot of people that quit working their jobs making $50,000, $60,000 a year to get $300 a week. No. But the people that were making $15,000, $18,000 a year, yeah. But that might say that we need to raise that minimum wage, because they would say, well, I'm not going to stay at home and just take this $300 if I could be making $500 working, if I could be making a better standard of living for myself. Not that it's got to go sky high, but let's look at the whole thing, the whole picture, because it's not that we want people to go back to work and work in poverty, but that we should make it where work gets you out of poverty and make some advances. But that was interesting because what I read today in LinkedIn is that now that the pandemic's getting over, and that we say that a lot of people aren't working because they can, get $300 and stay at home. We found that in April that more workers left their job. It was the Great Resignation than have left in years. 41% of American workers were thinking of leaving their jobs, and 4 million quit their companies in April. 4 million people left their jobs. They call it the Great Resignation. So a lot of people have been working through the pandemic and really didn't like it. They were like, man, I get through this pandemic, I'm leaving here. And a lot of people have left. So, it's not all about money. Sometimes it's about what type of work, where you're working, how is the workforce that's going on. There were 9.3 million job openings. So that's a lot. And a lot of people are leaving for better opportunities. So some of these companies that say they can't hire anybody now because, they can stay home and make money, you may find out that even when they cut off the money, they will have a hard time hiring people. Because if you're not paying enough, that could be a problem too. A lot of times there are people having to work 3 and 4 jobs or 2 and 3 jobs in order to make ends meet. So, a living wage would be good. There's a lot of companies that didn't want to hire full-time to try and play the tax game and the benefits game, that they only wanted workers to work 30 hours or a shorter time. So then you still have to work a couple of jobs and stuff. So you want those people to be loyal and ready to run back to work when they were being shuffled around and played left and right as it was. Let's make work something that people are wanting to do and that they can see a way of advancing, a way of moving up. That jobs become an important thing to them. So that's part of my soapbox and stuff. It's a thing that we have to look at, things that were coming up, and we just want to get with it. This is the BFTAA and More show. I came in and had a few things that I wanted to talk about, and I have. Hope you enjoyed the show. Next week we'll be back. We'll be bringing you some more information. We're also going to be reaching out to business owners that would like to come onto the show and talk about what business is like now that we're getting into a post-pandemic time. So look for us to have some more interviews on here. I'll be calling and talking to some, and we may not do them live. We may record them in advance, but we're going to be reaching out to some of our business owners and see if we can't see what the climate is in the Kansas City area. So keep listening. Keep tuning in to KUAW Radio. You can hear us 24 hours a day on our audio side. Just go to our webpage, KUAW.org. Go there and click on one of the buttons. You can pick us up on TuneIn, on the online radio box, on Radio Garden, on mytuner.com, or right there on our webpage. Click on that. If you have some of those other apps, go on them, search for KUAW Radio. You should be able to find us on there, and you can listen to not only our shows and what we have, but you'll be able to listen to some of the old school music, some of the smooth jazz, and a lot of nationally syndicated shows that we have right on there. We have a great blues show on every weekend. So we need you to check us out. This is KUAW Radio, the BFTAA and More show. I am your host, Louis George Walker. I'm glad that you were able to join me this evening. I will see you next Monday. Have a great week.